Hello, hello. Welcome to Real Frank Movie Reviews. In this episode, we're going to take a look at the new movie, The Northman. We will be discussing spoilers, so if you'd rather see the movie first, go see it and then come back and watch this episode. Otherwise, continue on. My special guest reviewer and I are going to break down this movie, things we liked, things we didn't like, things we didn't possibly understand in this world, and we're going to give it an overall score. All that coming up next.
Real Frank.
All right, my special guest reviewer for the Northman movie review is Kevin. Welcome back to the show, Kevin.
Thank you, Frank. Long time no see.
It has sure been a little bit of time. The Northman. Wow, this was a very interesting movie, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's an understatement, I think, right?
Yeah, so. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a very entertaining movie, very action-oriented, a lot of stuff going on. So it kept me interested in it. How did you like it?
For me, it was a difficult movie to watch. I guess what I struggled with was so much mythology bleeding into the story, right?
Yep.
So especially the beginning, when you saw the young boy and he was presented as an innocent, and that whole ceremony he had with his dad, and I don't know, I guess we're going full spoiler on this, right?
Yeah, I mean,
so
we might as well, right? Because you can't truly talk about this movie without giving away some spoilers.
Yeah, so when I was watching the beginning of the movie, and so the king came back, and everything was going as I thought it would, right? The king came back, he was triumphant, he was talking to his wife, and then you had this innocent boy that was introduced, right? And then with the whole scene where he took his son down into that ceremony and they act like wolves, that was hard for me to comprehend what was going on, right?
It was very, very weird, wasn't it? And then the dad,
it was very
king
weird,
burps,
right?
and then he farts, and they think he's a genius because he farts.
Yes, exactly. And that was throwing me for a loop. Like, they were just acting so alien, like actually acting like dogs and wolves, and then they had the hallucination stuff that was going on too, right?
Yeah.
So, and then he gets in, then they come back up, ceremony's done, and then his dad gets killed, right? Like, he gets killed by his half brother or his brother or whatever he is.
Yeah.
So, all right, we're going into a traditional revenge flick, right?
Absolutely.
He's going to come back and kill and take revenge for his father. I said, okay, I'm on board here. And I was on board, but every time they went to the mysticism and the fantasy stuff and the gods coming in, that was hard for me to wrap my head around. And the violence, like just how brutal everything was too, right? So
yeah, it was pretty violent, pretty graphic. Some scenes were graphic. Yeah, I kind of agree with you in that aspect of it. The thing that it's always hard when watching these type of films is the language, right? What the fuck are they talking about sometimes? It's like a code you have to break while you're trying to watch this movie. You're like, huh? What do you say? My father, he's always taught. What? Huh? What's that mean? I don't know.
Right.
So you kind of
100% right.
Yeah, and then you got to kind of watch the actors act and try to put it together, and then read all about this stuff after the fact to make some understanding of it.
And you saw it this morning, right?
Yeah, I saw it today. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I saw it Friday night. So I think I've had a little bit more time to process the story. What did you think of? Okay. So we have this guy, the son, who escapes, and then you see him as an adult, right? Mm-hmm. And he's just a common soldier at that point. What do you think when they attacked that village? Because I think that was the next big scene when they raided that village. They got hyped up, right? they got into berserker mode. I think they were naked in the forest the night before or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And then the next big action scene was the whole raiding of the village.
Yeah. That was the way they filmed that what his name, Amleth, or is that Amleth?
Yeah, I don't remember the names. I remember
where he's climbing up the wall, right? He's climbing it
Yep.
up. The way that was my favorite part of the whole movie. The way they filmed it from you're watching him the entire time. He's climbing up this
Yep.
wall to get up there, and then he's coming around, and the camera's just following him through this battle. And he's just cutting, he's grabbing arrows and slicing people.
Right, it's just like killing people left and right, right?
That scene all sucked me in because I was just blown away by the cinematography and the angles and the camera and the way they shot that whole scene was just so cool. So I got wrapped up into that. I mean, I never seen anything like it. It was breathtaking to me for a while. I got wrapped up in it. But it was a very vicious, violent scene for sure, which was quite shocking because you're thinking this guy watched his dad die, and then all of a sudden he's taking over.
He's killing like women, and did he kill children? And like I don't know, he was just killing people left and right, right?
Yeah, without even thinking.
Right, and then afterwards, like it was just brutal watching like all the women getting taken as slaves and the kids getting killed and everything like that, right? So.
Yeah, it was pretty good though. That scene though was pretty intense. I'm gonna share something with you too, though. When Nicole Kidman and his dad died, right? And you know, Nicole Kidman's a pretty big actress, right? She's Academy Award nominee and all that stuff. When that whole scene when the father dies and he, you know, escapes and runs away, I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, Nicole Kidman, her husband just got killed, so her part's over. I don't think so. Something bigger is going to happen here. I bet you, this is true, she's the brains or something here, because why would they have such a big actress playing the wife instead of this nobody person, right? So that was a big red flag for me. Like, if you're going to do this little spin thing where she ends up being the brains of this whole thing and operations, arranged for her husband to get murdered and wanted this Amleth guy to get murdered too, you got to have a lower non-big star play that role, because that was a huge red flag to me as soon as I saw her. And I'm like, he died. All right, they just signed around for like 10 minutes in the movie? No way, right?
Right. Yeah, I wasn't thinking like that. I guess I was taking more the movie in as it was going. So, good point about that. So, when we get to the end and there's that big twist at the end, right, that you're alluding to, when she was getting carried away by him, like, how were you reading that scene? Like, I thought she was like screaming and stuff like that, right?
Right.
Was there any, did you pick up on any subtleties she was bringing to the part, right? So
the only thing when that scene happened, I thought about it when it was happening, and like, it's got to be more to this. Like, I believe,
right.
You know, from the way they shot it, the perspective and everything, it looked like she was in distress, obviously.
Yeah.
But it didn't make sense to me. Why is she in distress? There's got to be more to this. There's going to be a twist here or something with her, because it just can't end like that.
Right.
You know, so
yeah, so the attack on the village happened, and I'm trying to think of the timeline. Then they threw some of that more mysticism in there, where I think they threw those kids into that building, set the building on fire, everyone got burnt to a crisp, and then during the middle of the night he goes into it and sees that I think it's a fate, right? It's a fate that's telling him what he has to do.
So those scenes were so confusing. So you're like, is this real? Or is it in his head? What the hell's going on here? Like, to me, it wasn't very clear.
Right.
I mean, is he talking to someone? Is that someone really there?
Right.
Or is it all in his head and he's on some loopy potion, drugs, something psychedelic thing? I don't know.
Yeah, no, that was a little weird to process too for me. And then all of a sudden he realized what he has to do. He knows that he has to get to Iceland. That's where his uncle is that killed his father, right? So
yeah. And then what do you think about the whole scene where they're playing that sport game, whatever?
That was cool.
Yeah.
And that was violent for sure.
Yes.
Right. So I think what I liked getting built up to that scene, right? I liked how they depicted the village, right? So I liked how everything was authentic, right? He's a slave. He's coming to this village. It looks like a Viking village. Everything looks authentic in this movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that was the next highlight as he's learning, as he's tricking himself into be a slave or passing myself off as a slave. Then that game happened, and that was, I think that was one of my favorite scenes. So.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, even that was violent, right? I mean, they were just knocking themselves with sticks, and that one guy got hit, and his whole face was busted open.
Yes.
So.
Oh, and that one's when he was a kid, and he cuts the soldier's nose off. That's trying to kill him. That was sweet. And then in the end, when he jams the sword through his nose, that was wild.
Yeah, no, that he was very ruthless in killing everybody, right? So
I'm okay with the violence and the gore in this type of movie because of the time period of the piece. Because it fits, right? These people were vicious. He was a Viking for, I think, when he grew up as a Viking or something like that after he left. So he's a vicious person. That's what he's been around his entire childhood and growing up to. I don't know how old was he at this time? When he in his 20s or something? Do you figure?
Yeah, something like that, 20s, 30 something.
So that's all he's seen, right? He's all been around this death and fighting. So I'm okay with the gore and the violence in it because I kind of think it fits this period in peace that he's kind of been around his entire life.
Right, and then the next big scene I think is when he went to get the magic sword.
Yes.
Right. It's weird how they played that magic sword too, because he went down. It wasn't clear to me how he found that cave. Right? Do you have a better memory of the events?
No, it's like boom, he's in the cave. It's like
right.
Hey, there's a
sword.
There's
that weird mystic guy that has that head of the old shaman from back in the village, and he's telling him this stuff. He says, "Go get the sword." And I really like that scene where he went down into the ship that was buried, grabbed that magic sword, and that his body came to life, right? And he had that struggle. I thought that fight was really well filmed, the way they were going back and forth. And then he knocks him into the moonlight, and he's disabled, and he kills him or whatever he does to him. And all of a sudden, everything goes back, and you see a wide shot of him in the corner, and the body's still there, and he just picks up the sword, right?
So that's another. I'm glad you're talking about this scene because it was super confusing to me. All right, so it goes through this whole fight scene like you just described. He defeats him, and then it was cool how the camera just kind of pans over, and as it pans over, it's like it never happened because the guy is still sitting in the chair holding the sword.
Yes,
and he just grabs it, and the guy crumbles. So what happened there, Kevin? I was very confused. Did the fight actually take place, or in reality he just fought him in his head, and then after the fighting in his head he just took the sword?
I don't know. I think it's he's the director is trying to do a fine line introducing these authentic Viking myths with reality, right? And then the sword does weird stuff all the time from that point forward. Like, I think when the sword described to you as the audience, he was talking about it needs blood to open up, right? And there's instances where people are trying to unsheath the sword and it can't open up, right? So that was, that scene was interesting. And I wasn't expecting that to happen, right? Where there's this mythical battle happening out of myth, and then it's like you go back to reality. It didn't happen or didn't happen. and then he gets the sword, right? So
yeah. So, in your opinion, what happened there? Did it happen, or was it in his head?
I don't think it happened. I think it was just in his mind or something, right? So that is a difficult question, for sure.
So if it's in his mind, he just has the sword all the entire time. Like, how did he get the sword then?
I think so. He went in to get the sword, and this battle. Yeah, that's a struggle. That's what I'm struggling with too. So this battle happened, and I'm almost coming to the opinion that it did happen, but it was happening on a different level, right? So when he did win, he came back to reality, and the sword was his for taking. So he had to go through this mythical battle that was playing at a different reality than what was happening. Than what was happening in reality, like almost like a mythical battle. He won it, and then he was able to take the sword. So, but that was a hard thing to wrap my head around, for sure.
Yeah.
So
it was, and it seems like no one was talking about this sword. He knew about this sword. Like, I don't know. I got the impression, maybe I missed that part, that he was the only one aware of this sword except for that spiritual guy he was talking to.
Yep.
Like his uncle, who's living there and took his ma. He doesn't know anything about this sword. I don't think he ever referenced this sword, right? Or did I miss
right.
it?
No, right, exactly. It's like a sort out of myth, right? That the gods had to tell him about. They had to go get, like, he had this little quest to get the sword. But it's interesting you mentioned the uncle, right? So another scene that stood out to me is when you are introduced to this Iceland village, and you're seeing nuances of the uncle. Because I think before, when you met him, you had saw him at the party, and he was played off as subservient to his brother, and then all of a sudden he killed his brother, like, out of nowhere, right? You weren't expecting that. And then you go back forward in time, and then you see this village scene where he's talking to his youngest son, and he's doing manual labor, right? So that was interesting to me. They were humanizing the character, that he wasn't just this big bad guy, right? That he cared about his people. He's trying to teach his son the right way to live, that you just can't have slaves do everything. You need to do the work of a slave, right?
Yeah.
So.
And then in the background, his other son was trying to learn to fight. He was getting his ass kicked.
Yes, he was very one-dimensional. He was just like, yeah, he didn't serve much of a purpose, right? He was just being this big a-hole person, right?
Basically, yes. Yeah.
So I like that scene too, where they're adding subtlety to the uncle. So when the tryst happens and there's doubt in the character, is this the right path to go on? I think they did a good job of laying that groundwork. So
another scene that, for me, that was really disturbing was when his mom was trying to kiss him.
Oh, don't jump to that yet. I think it was interesting. What did you think, before we get to that twist? When he did his first kill, he went into that house and he butchered those two guys, and then he made it, what was, like a horse or something out of the body parts.
Oh, yes, they hung him up like a horse.
Yeah, was it a horse?
Yeah, it was something. They didn't really show it
because there was body pieces everywhere, right?
There's body pieces, and they kind of didn't allow you to. They like showed it, but didn't show it. Like, it was very quick. And then they would only pan up a little bit so you could know there was some body pieces hanging there, but they never gave you, like, you'd have to, like, pause it to see what it was truly shaped like.
And I don't remember, did he have trouble opening the sword up before he attacked him?
I don't know. I don't think so, right? I think he just could open it, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I remember when other people tried to open the sword, they couldn't. Right.
Yeah, and the guy threw it. The guardsman tried to do it at the end when he was all tied up, and he just threw it in the haystack or whatever it was.
Right. And then, before we get to that big twist, what I thought was interesting too is the shaman woman came out, looked at the bodies, and said, "This is dark magic, right? A dark blade did this." Mm-hmm. And So that's telling you is the mystical stuff really happening or not, right? So
I don't know.
So then I guess we could talk about the twist when he finds that his mom is alive and he has that conversation with her.
Dirty mama, dirty mama, dirty mama. Gross. It was nasty, man. That was very uncomfortable. It's like, but you know what though? I'm gonna be honest with you, Kevin. I saw that twist coming at that point in the movie. You know, we hadn't seen her too much. She was here and there in the scenes. I'm like, it's Nicole Kidman. All right, you spend all this money. Nicole's not working for free. All right, she's just not, unless it's her like passion project. And then he has that interaction with her and sees it when he get in there in that scene right before it happened. I go, that bitch be behind the whole thing. I said it.
And she was for sure, right?
But I didn't see that kiss coming because I was like,
yeah, that was a little uncomfortable too, watching that. Like the way she tried to manipulate him and say, "Hey, I did it all. Your dad was horrible, and this new guy is the best, right?
Yeah,
he actually cares about people." And then to see the doubt in his eye. I thought he did a good job of standing there and you're saying, I felt like he had doubt in his eyes. Am I taking the right path? Was my dad the person he said he was, right? And then for her to flip it and say, basically, if you kill him, you can have me, and she put a kiss on his mouth, right? So,
I mean, she's crazy. She's crazy.
She is crazy. And then I think that snapped him out of it, right? I forget what he did after that. Did he pushed her away, right?
And then he took off.
Then he took off. Did he kill that other son at that point?
Yes. Was it that part? Yes, I believe so. He went over there, and that's when he killed him. Yes, because then he was so upset and distraught, and then she went over there and said, "Man up, you pussy! You know you can't cry in front of all these people. You're the king, or you're the leader of these guys. Get over it. I know who it is. My son. He's here. He tried to kiss me. No, she didn't say that, but
right.
Yeah, that was
so. Yeah, I think the next big scene that stands out was the Viking funeral stuff. What do you think about that scene?
Whatever.
When it was, yeah, probably dragged out a little too long.
Yes,
right?
Yes. That's my main complaint with this movie, right? Because the movie's over 2 hours and 20 minutes, right?
I didn't know what the running time was. I went into it blind, right?
Yeah, I think it's like 2 hours 20 minutes. They could have done this movie hour and 45 minutes. They dragged a lot of this stuff out too long, in my opinion, and that hurt it for me because like, why are we doing it here? Because it's hard to understand these people, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So you're struggling with that, and then they making these scenes so long and drug out, all these ceremonies and shit. You're like, man, we get it. You guys are in this time period to do these things, but why are we dragging out this whole funeral thing and the whole sorcerer stuff? I thought was a little dragged out. We didn't need that. That was my opinion with it. They kind of drug this thing out.
Yeah, no, there were some things that were a little long. I agree 100%. Well, we did talk about the love interest person, like when he when he got on the boat to go get revenge, and then he met that blonde-haired girl. Mm-hmm. Do you have any strong opinion of her as a character?
I didn't really like her. That was weird too. Her character was weird, right? Like he stows away on this boat for revenge. So he look like he's a slave too. Gets on there and she knows he's not a slave, and then she's all cool with it. Like, oh, I know you're not a slave, but whatever, you hot. I'm gonna care. You're not a slave, but you're hot. Whatever. It was weird, wasn't it?
It was, right.
And then all of a sudden they just click and bond, and he letting her in all his grand plans of things and why he's going over there. And wait, I'm this weird sorcerer witch kind of girl that can kind of help you. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. I agree 100%, right? So it was weird, like the way she was introduced, and the way she was just there to help him, basically, and eventually become the father of his children.
And you know what's going to happen, Kevin? This is the circle of life, right? Your mom's crazy, fucked up. You know what kind of woman you're gonna get attracted to?
Right. I think there's truth to it, right?
Right. So. And then we find out that she's having twins, and she didn't want him to leave to finish this whole thing off, right? And he's gonna have twins, and what's gonna happen to these kids? Same old shit, right? The same broken household.
Right. Truth to that for sure. Yeah. So. And then, okay, I don't think there was anything. I think what we're at is the last battle, right? Mm-hmm. When he gets on the boat, is about to go away with his girl, he realizes the girl is pregnant, and says, "Wait a minute."
But wasn't that weird?
My uncle's gonna.
Wasn't that scene weird? How he finds out he's like to suck the wound that she had on her neck.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that part. Right.
Like, so. And then, oh my God, you're. What's that? What's pregnant blood taste like? Is there a taste?
Yeah, and then you saw that they had this motif that was showing the tree of life with all these generations, right? And then you saw his future children, and all of a sudden he says, "Okay, I have to go kill my uncle," and you know at that point he's going to die, right? I don't think there's any question that he's not coming back from that. So
let's continue that. So he goes and kills all these people. He gets to where his mom is living, and he kills her, and then her son, his brother, half brother at this point, right? His half brother.
Right. Yeah, like his half brother, the younger son.
Yes.
I don't think he meant to kill his mom. Right? Is that how you read the scene, or did you say you read it as he purposely killed his mom like that?
I believe he purposely wanted to kill his mom, but killing his half brother, he didn't want to. But he took a big damage from both of them, which I don't understand that either. Like, he's this big Viking guy, or not Viking, but living with these Vikings. He's been killing like hell this entire movie without a scratch on him. And at this point, he lets his mom with this little, kitchen knife stab him a couple times and damage him, and his half brother stab him a couple times.
And I thought the half brother did the most damage, right?
Yeah, behind his back. And stuff.
He got him in the back quite a few times before he got killed, right? And I agree with you. I don't think he meant to kill his half brother, but he was defending himself, right? Mm-hmm. So.
But that scene was kind of awkward though, because I just didn't like it. Like, if he's gonna go down and get damaged, why is it? I figured a bigger battle, not like his little half brother jumping on his back. He's just gonna let that happen, He could have easily, sliced him, diced them, both of them.
Right, I agree 100%. For a warrior like him to get taken by a little kid, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a little weird for sure.
And then the final scene, the big battle of the gates of hell. What was your overall opinion of that?
I liked it. I liked how it was shot. I liked how they were fighting in basically lava from a volcano that's erupting. It was a little weird that they were both naked fighting, right? But I do think that was a...
Is that so in case...
they added to the scene, right? Didn't take away from the scene, for sure.
Is that so in case their clothes caught fire or something?
Right, 100%. And then the way it ended, where they both, he killed him, chopping off his head, but he was able to stab him through the heart, basically. And I thought that was a proper ending. I don't think I had a problem with him, because he was going to die, right?
Yes.
He's going to probably take out his uncle, but to have them kill each other at the same time, I thought that was cool.
Now, the only thing I didn't quite understand is why he dragged his wife and his son to that place for that final battle.
Oh, that's a good point.
I didn't understand that.
Probably he was. Did he cut off a horse's head at some point? Right? Was that with them too? I forget. I know there was multiple horses' heads that were cut off. Like when the older son had his funeral, they were preparing him in the ship. Mm-hmm. They killed the woman. They killed the horse for him. But I don't quite remember if he killed the horse for the two. Do you remember? You saw it earlier than today. Does that anything stick out?
No, I can't. I don't remember. It might have been one of those things where I was checking my watch.
Fair enough. I think he was just trying to give him a proper Viking burial. I mean, he didn't have anything. I mean, all his slaves are gone. All his warriors are gone. It's just him. So I think the purpose of that was, I'm going to take my son and my wife, and I'm going to give him proper Viking burial. I guess that's how I read that scene.
Okay.
So
I thought it was just, he's. It looks like he watched his wife and son die, or got there just as he was finishing stabbing his son, and he puts his sword away and then just drags the bodies and says, "Meet me at the gate of hell." That was kind of weird, right? Like, I don't know. Maybe it's a special spiritual place or something.
Yeah, I think so. I think that was more just mysticism or a spiritual place that he was dragging to bury him for sure. So then, after they die together, that's it, right? Pretty much.
That's pretty much it. The ending, you just talked about. I thought it was well done because they're not. It's from a distance, right? So if it's all CGI, which you can't really tell, if it's acting and CGI, it's done well, so you can't tell. And even when the head gets chopped off, it's done well enough where it kind of looks realistic.
Yeah, no, I agree. I didn't have any problem with any CGI that was used. Nothing really stood out to me, for sure.
Yeah.
Everything felt real. Everything looked real.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
I mean, this was a very well done movie that way to make it as realistic as possible.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, very action packed, but a lot of drawn out long scenes that could have been cut out that I felt were unnecessary. The cinematography, the shots of the country, the land, that battle in the beginning when I talked about him falling up through that whole village takeover, fantastic, so well done. And the picture kind of has like a dark doom and gloom tint, and in the beginning when it's snowing, when the king comes home, that was all cool. That was good.
World felt very lived in for sure, right? So and I guess the last scene is, so then they bring more mysticism into it. So he dies, gets killed through the heart in battle. So then he gets to go to Valhalla, right, with the Valkyrie that takes him up there. I thought that was a good way to end the movie, for sure. So.
Oh, and one thing we forgot to talk about, the sorcerer. So the king, or is he really a king at this point? His uncle, is he a king or no?
No, I mean, he's more a chieftain. I think he lost his kingdom, right? So he has this little village.
So, but is he like a king though? I'm kind of was confused by that too. Is he still a king? Well, the fact that he wanted to keep that sorcerer girl, because he found her attractive, and the scene where he wants to bang her.
Yes.
And she lifts up her dress and gave him a surprise of his kind. That was another one of those. Whoa.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So for sure. So
you don't see that every day in a Hollywood movie.
No, you do not. So.
But I did enjoy this movie overall. But just again, when Nicole Kidman was in it and her husband died, it became predictable to me to a certain degree. I knew something was up.
Sure.
So it took away the whole twist.
I didn't realize the degree of how evil she was. I was still a little shocked by that, right? So she was the true mastermind behind it, what she was willing to do to keep power, right?
Yes.
So.
All right, so what do you score this? Overall, what do you give this movie?
I guess one question. I don't think I will. I enjoyed the time. Like I said, it was brutal to watch, but I think one viewing was enough for me. I don't think I'll come back and revisit this movie. So
I'll watch it again for that beginning scene. I love that scene of him taking over that village. I just thought it was so well done.
That was a really good, well done action scene for sure. That was definitely one of the highlights, right? So
you're never gonna watch this movie again?
I don't know. Just the brutality of the killings it's hard to say at this point, right? So
how do you think? There's no way they could show it like on FX, right? Because they have to edit this whole thing, or on TBS
this is a
or
hard R for sure.
Yeah, right.
So
because there's no way they're gonna be able to show it on cable TV. Because they'll have to edit out so much stuff.
Like every death is like gory and realistic, right? So yeah, for sure.
Which they did a good job, right? Because death is never, or fighting and war.
Especially back then, fighting hand to hand with axes and
that's just how it was.
Swords and everything.
That's one thing I did like. They didn't shy away from that to keep it in true spirit of the time period.
Yeah, he directed a good job of trying to make it as realistic as possible, right? So put you back in that time frame, what Vikings were like, what their culture was like, what it was like to fight, right? So A+ for that, for sure.
All right, so overall, 10 being the best, 1 being the worst, what do you score this movie?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Hard to watch, but I can't knock it because it was so well made, so well crafted. So we'll say a 7, right? So.
Woo! A 7! 7.0. Very good. I'm a little surprised. The way you were talking throughout this whole review, I thought you might.
Yeah, I know, but I'm not going to give it like a 5 or a 4. I mean, it is so well directed. Pacing could be a little long in some areas, but the visuals, the way they went back and crafted the everything, right, they make it look like you're really there. To me, that makes it make a higher score than to give it a 7 for sure.
Okay.
So
all right. For me, personally, it was too long. I don't mind too long movies where there's a purpose and a meaning to it, but I truly felt if they dragged this out too long, they could have finished this movie hour 45 minutes. I think would have been perfect, because that would have been keeping the thing moving around. The whole dragging out the whole ceremonies, dragging out these sorcery scenes. I thought they went too long on that.
Well, in his defense, I think my takeaway is he just wanted to give you as much culture of the Vikings as possible, right? So there's an extra fluff in there. Like if you were to take it down to hour 45 minutes, then it becomes more of a typical revenge action picture, right? So I think what he was trying to do differently was show you the ceremonies, show you the mythology, show you the culture of the Vikings. So I see where you're coming from, but I think I understand why it is what it is, what he was trying to get across.
But see, you made a valid point right there, right? It's a revenge killer type of movie, right? We've seen many of these made in Hollywood, and the only thing that's different with this one is the same movie. It's just the time period that it took place, right? That's the fascinating part. That's what's so cool about it, right? We've seen this song and dance so many times, but they added a little twist of the time period. All right. So for my score, overall, I give this a 5.7.
Okay. I'm not surprised.
Right? I would have, Kevin, to be honest, I would have had it a lot higher had it, just in my opinion, not dragged out so much. If they would have cut some of that stuff up, because I was all in.
Fair enough.
I didn't mind the violence. I felt it was necessary. The view, the cinematography, the CGI, top notch. But I looked at my watch when it's my sign. Like if I'm watching a movie and I keep like, where are we at now? Where are we at now? And that's happened to me several times in that one.
Yeah, right. There are slow moments. I mean, there's moments where nothing is happening. There's ceremonies that you don't quite understand the context for. That, especially the Viking funeral, right? Ran a little long for sure. So.
And the whole part with the sorcerer girlfriend type of deal, like how all of a sudden, boom, they clicked. If they were to take some time to build something up there.
Right.
How that clicked and it was just kind of weird to me. I don't know. Reminded him of his mom.
Fair enough.
All right. Kevin gives this movie a 7. I give it a 5.7. That's a review for The Northman. Thanks for watching.